New York. Well, let's bring in Lindsay Walters, national spokesperson for the Republican National Committee. And Lindsay, with a welcome to you. Let's talk about Pennsylvania, certainly the big state this week with the delegate selection system. In that state, many of the delegates are elected directly. They're not bound to a candidate on the first ballot at the convention. And in some states, it is just winner take all. Others, it's an allocated system. Is it in the interest of the party to streamline or standardize this delegate process?
On Tuesday, you're going to see, as you said, 5 states, one of which is Pennsylvania. One is winner take all. That's Delaware. And then you have hybrid and proportional. How the primary process works is up to the individual states, and they choose what works best for their state. And that's how you get whether it's winner take all, hybrid, or proportional. So again, this is up to the individual state parties and what they decide is best for their state.
Okay, let's look at what's happened to this point, because Donald Trump right now has received nearly 8.8 million votes during this primary and caucus season, which is about 2 million more than his closest competitor, that being Ted Cruz. So the ultimate decision, however, to who gets the nomination, that is in the hands of convention delegates. Is it fair, Lindsay, that a hand-picked group of Republican insiders, instead of Republican voters, gets to actually select the nominee?
I think we need to remember that these delegates are elected at the most grassroots level. These are delegates who are elected at the state. Anyone can be a delegate. So as long as you meet the state requirements, you could be a delegate. And they're elected on the primary ballot, through state conventions, through state committee meetings, caucuses. And these are just people of the state. These are voters who were elected in the state who then go on to represent their state on the floor. And you can't get much more of a grassroots process than what is happening.
So what about the RNC leadership? Are they concerned about a Trump candidacy? Does the party believe that Trump can beat whoever the Democrats nominate, despite the numbers out there in the polls that suggest otherwise?
The RNC believes that any one of our candidates is far more equipped to be in the White House than Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders.
But that's not the question, Lindsay. That may be the RNC's philosophy, but do they believe that the candidate can beat the Democratic candidate out there, likely Hillary Clinton?
We believe that any one of our candidates can beat Hillary Clinton. You know, she's untrusted. She has a hard time with young voters. She's under an FBI investigation, and we absolutely believe that any one of our candidates can beat Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders.
What about concerns that Trump candidacy could damage Republican candidates down ballot, those for the House and the Senate?
Yeah, right now, our role in this is to be the arbitrator and to be the facilitator, and we do believe that whomever our nominee is, that we will go back and beat the Democrats, we will take back the White House, and that the Republicans are offering the change that the country wants this country to go in. If you look at Obama and the administration, they don't want another 4 years of the failed status quo, and only the Republican Party can get the country back on track.
Let's talk about John Kasich here, who, as you know, has won only one state. The current committee rules hold that a candidate has got to have at least 8 victories under his belt before his name can be entered into nomination at a convention. So does that rule completely block Kasich from competing for the nomination if no other candidate meets the 1,237 threshold?
I think the first thing we need to know is that the rules that you're referring to are simply a temporary placeholder. These are the 2012 rules. The rules that will govern the 2016 convention will be written by the 2016 Convention Rules Committee, which will meet the week prior in Cleveland. And so these rules are, again, a temporary placeholder. And I can't speak about hypothetical situations, nor am I going to go into them, because what the rules will be about going to govern this convention have yet to be set.
What about the RNC party leaders who look at the numbers of John Kasich put up against Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders, and most often in poll numbers against Hillary Clinton in a general election matchup, he beats her, and Bernie Sanders may beat him most recently by just a slim margin. That's very different than the numbers you have against Donald Trump.
This process, again, is up to the voters right now. They're out casting their ballots, and we will have a nominee, and that person will be whoever gets to 1237. And the RNC is not here hand-selecting who our nominee will be. The nominee is selected by the voters and the delegates, and that's the process we will follow. This has been the process since 1856, and we will continue to follow that process. And whomever the delegates and voters elect as our nominee, when they that individual gets to 1237, that's who will be the nominee.
Lindsay, anyone who is a voter who is becoming, I guess, well, they're feeling like their vote doesn't count, disenfranchised, because they are being represented by delegates and they don't even know who they are half the time. They're not identifiable on the ballots when they go to vote. Do you have any sympathy for those folks who say, my vote isn't counting?
Every vote is counting. Whether a delegate is elected on the primary ballot or at a state convention, as a voter, you can participate in that state convention, and you can go be a part of that process. And so every vote is counting, and this is the most grassroots way of electing a nominee. Look at the Democratic side. They have superdelegates who they're stacking behind their favored candidate, Hillary Clinton. We don't have that on the Republican side. This all comes down to votes and at the grassroots level in the individual states.
All right. Well, Lindsay Walters, thank you very much for speaking on behalf of the Republican National Committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go to Bernie